Have you ever felt abandoned by God? Like your prayers were bouncing off the ceiling, like God was silent, or worse, absent. If you've had those feelings, you're not alone. We are in a series exploring Psalms that were written out of the desert seasons of life. Moments marked by grief, doubt, unanswered prayer, loss, spiritual dryness. And these Psalms give voice to what we often struggle to say out loud. Last week we looked at David's "How Long, O Lord" song. Is chapter 13. And Psalm 13 is a reminder that it's okay to be honest with God, to cry out in our hardest moments, and to choose faith even when it is difficult to do so. Today we are walking through Psalm 22. This was written by David in a time of deep anguish and distress. The song is intense. David feels forsaken, surrounded, and exhausted. Yet this psalm moves us from lament. We talked about lament last week. I'd encourage you to go back and listen if you were unable to be here. It moves us from lament to praise, from pain to worship. It also, hopefully picked up on this in just a little bit of reading we've done so far, it also prophetically points to Jesus. It points to Jesus on the cross, where he quotes this psalm as he takes on the full weight of human suffering. Psalm 22 gives us permission to both cry out to God and to remember who God is, even when he feels removed from our pain. So let's jump in. Psalm 22, we'll read again, just 1 and 2 right now, and then we'll make our way through this text. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me from the words of my groaning? Oh my God, I cry by day, but you do not answer, and by night, but I find no rest. We sense here David's cry of abandonment, that David feels forsaken, lonely, unheard, restless. His soul is empty. All of us can relate to that. We can relate to seasons in our life where our soul just feels empty, where we feel parched, where our spiritual, emotional, mental, physical exhaustion just takes over and drains our core, right? It drains our soul. We can relate to David's words here. We may not be in the same life context of David. We're not out in a literal wilderness or desert running from an angry king or a life-threatening enemy. But we relate to David's words, and that we, no matter what our desert season looks like, we have felt his pain, his cries of abandonment. It's very important what I'm going to say right here. Faith does not deny pain. Faith does not deny pain. You may hear some preachers or people that claim to speak on behalf of God that say that faith does away with pain. But the reality of the scriptures and David's story of the Psalms that we're looking at is faith does not deny pain. It names it and it brings it to God. God, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm going through. This is what I'm struggling with. And this is not weak faith. This is honest faith. This is faith amid the reality of the human experience. Because in life, you're going to go through some stuff, aren't you? You're going to face some things. You're going to go through some things that you would not choose. You're going to go through some difficulties. You're going to get blindsided by some things. That's the reality of the human experience. And faith is naming those things. God, this is what I'm struggling with. Here's what I'm going through. Here's what I'm feeling in this time. I'm wrestling with the reality of the brokenness of the human experience. My God, why have you forsaken me? Verse 3, yet, huge word here, yet you are holy, enthroned on the praises of Israel. In you our fathers trusted, they trusted, and you delivered them. To you they cried and were rescued. In you they trusted and were not put to shame. In the middle of his pain, David declares this key word, yet. Yet. In the middle of what he's going through, David remembers who God is, even when he feels forsaken, even when he feels unheard. David recalls. And he recalls God's faithfulness in the past. He recalls God's faithfulness in the past to help him get through what he's dealing with in the present. He can't really see clearly in the present, can he? He's feeling the weight of the pain and the struggle. And so David in this moment recalls, he reflects upon who God is, his faithfulness in the past, so that he can get through what he's going through in the present. Here's a desert survival tip for you. Remember what's true about God even when you do not feel like it. Remember what's true about God even when it doesn't seem real to you, even when you do not feel like it, because remembering God's past faithfulness anchors us when we feel helpless and hopeless today. Remembering God's faithfulness in the past anchors us no matter what we're facing in the present. All right, let's go 6 through 21. Stay with me. There's some brutal, honest words in these verses. But I am a worm. There used to be that old hymn that we used to sing. Which one was it? I'm a worm. Said something about being a worm. That wasn't the name of the hymn, I am a worm. There was a line in the hymn that said, I'm a worm. I don't remember. But I am a worm and not a man, scorned by mankind, despised by the people. All who see me mock me. Now, I want you to listen to the words that David uses here. You can see how they prophetically point to Jesus on the cross. They make mouths at me. They wag their heads. He trusts in the Lord. Let him deliver him. Let him rescue him, for he delights in him. Remember Jesus on the cross. If you are who you say you are, let God deliver you. Yet you are he who took me from the womb. You made me trust at my mother's breast. On you was I cast from my birth, and from my mother's womb you have been my God. Be not far from me, for trouble is near, and there is none to help. Many bulls encompass me. Strong bulls of Bashan surround me. They open wide their mouths at me like a raving and roaring lion. I am poured out like water. All my bones are out of joint. My heart is like wax. It is melted within my breast. My strength is dried up like a potsherd. My tongue sticks to my jaws. You lay me in the dust of death. For dogs encompass me. A company of evildoers encircles me. They have pierced my hands and feet. I can count all my bones. They stare and gloat over me. They divide my garments among them. And for my clothing they cast lots. But you, O Lord, do not be far off. O you, my help, come quickly to my aid. Deliver my soul from the sword, my precious life from the power of the dog. Save me from the mouth of the lion. You have rescued me from the horns of the wild oxen. This is the cry of the forsaken. This is the cry of the abandoned. These verses are filled with deep shame and humiliation and weakness. David feels surrounded by his enemies. He feels exposed. He feels helpless. This is how you feel in the desert. This is how you feel in the wilderness seasons of life. You feel shame, humiliation. Like, why can't I pull myself out of this? Why am I not stronger? Why is my faith not stronger? This is how you feel in desert seasons of life. I'm exhausted. You feel weak. You feel humiliated. You feel exposed. You feel helpless. This is how you feel in the desert. Listen, that's okay. It's okay. It's okay to feel those things. David is suffering, isn't he? He's suffering physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. He is in full-blown crisis mode. And he's not sure that he's going to make it. Yet, he keeps crying out to God. He keeps crying out to God. And in crying out to God, he expresses both uncertainty and trust. He expresses pain and faith. He expresses doubt and confidence. His cry is vulnerable. His cry is honest. His cry is authentic. But what's most important is he keeps crying out. He keeps crying out. His pain becomes prayer and not despair. He pursues trust even during his crisis. Now let's watch how this psalm turns from lament to praise, starting in verse 22. I will tell of your name to my brothers. In the midst of the congregation, I will praise you. You who fear the Lord, praise him. All you offspring of Jacob, glorify him. Stand in awe of him, all you offspring of Israel. For he has not despised and abhorred the affliction of the afflicted. He has not hidden his face from him, but he's heard when he cried to him. From you comes my praise in the great congregation. My vows I will perform before those who fear him. The afflicted shall eat and be satisfied. Those who seek him shall praise the Lord. May your hearts live forever. All the ends of the earth shall remember and turn to the Lord. All the families of the nations shall worship before you. For kingship belongs to the Lord. He rules over the nations. All the prosperous of the earth eat and worship. Before him shall bow all who go down to dust, even the one who could not keep himself alive. Posterity shall serve him. It shall be told of the Lord to the coming generation. They shall come and proclaim his righteousness to a people yet unborn, that he has done it. Like you read this last section, you think, is this the same song? Is this the same author? His pain turns to praise. David's lament turns to worship and hope that God is not absent. He was silent, but he was always close at hand. He was silent, but he was always nearby. As we mentioned last week, and I'll encourage us again today, the desert is not the end of the story. The wilderness does not have the final say. That God brings redemption and healing and restoration and worship and hope from the desert seasons of life. I love how Psalm 22 leads us to the foot of the cross. It takes us to the cross. It's fulfilled in Jesus. And that's why this psalm ends in this global worship, global praise, and not individual despair. That's how it started, right? My God, why have you forsaken me? David feels very isolated, very forsaken, very abandoned. But by the end of the psalm, David is saying that there will be a global experience of worship, global praise to the King of glory. So he goes from individual pain and hurt and lament to global praise. And Jesus is the one that brings this psalm to fulfillment. That it is a foretaste of the redemptive story that God is writing, that brokenness gives way to glory. You see, this psalm is not just poetry, it is prophecy. What David is facing and going through, Jesus takes on himself on the cross. Jesus did not just quote this psalm on the cross. He did not just quote Psalm 22:1, my God, why have you forsaken me? Jesus did not just quote this psalm, he lived it. He lived it to its fullest extent. And the shadow of the cross looms large in this psalm. Think about it. The forsaken cry, the cry of the forsaken. My God, why have you forsaken me? Matthew 27:46. This is what Jesus cries from the cross. Verses 7 and 8, David speaks of mockery, that he's mocked. If you bounce to Matthew 27:41 through 43, there Jesus is mocked. Verse 16 of Psalm 22 talks of the pierced hands, pierced feet. This takes us to John 20, right? Where they pierce the hands and feet of Jesus. Even down to like verse 18, where David speaks of them casting lots for clothing. John 19, we learn that the soldiers cast lots over the clothing of Jesus. In verse 27 of Psalm 22, all the nations turn to God. This is the scene of Revelation 7, where every tribe of the world turns to God in worship. Verse 31. David ends this psalm saying, he has done it. This is a reflection of Jesus' words from the cross. It is finished. It is complete. And so this psalm portrays, it prophesies of a coming Messiah who would take on human suffering that would end in global praise and recognition and worship. You see, in so many ways, this psalm reminds us Jesus takes on our human suffering so that we do not have to face the desert of life alone. Jesus chooses to quote Psalm 22 on the cross. And in doing so, he reminds us of a few things here, some gospel takeaways. He reminds us first, Jesus entered into our abandonment so that we will never be alone, so that we will never fully be abandoned by God. Jesus entered our abandonment. He took our abandonment so that we will never be alone, so that we will never be abandoned by God. Jesus cries on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me? Jesus experiences the full weight of our sin, our shame, and separation. And in that moment, as the song says, the Father turned his face away. Here's the gospel truth. David felt abandoned, like we feel abandoned at times, feel forsaken. David felt abandoned, but Jesus was actually abandoned so that we might be fully accepted and loved. You see, the gospel, the good news of the cross assures us God may feel distant. You may feel abandoned. You may feel alone, but in Christ, in the gospel, you are never alone. The Hebrews writer says that he will never leave us. He will never forsake us. He will not abandon you. Now, let's be honest. Some of you need to hear that a little more than others today. Some of you need to hear it because you have felt forsaken. You have felt abandoned. You have faced those emotions. You've faced that reality in your life. Some of you have felt abandoned by a parent, by a mom or a dad that didn't step up. We have several people in City Church, they never even knew one of their parents, most often the father. Some of you have felt abandoned by friends. Some of you have felt abandoned or forsaken by a spouse. As someone who said they loved you and were committed to you and then walked away from the relationship. Some of you have felt abandoned by children. Some of you have felt abandoned or forsaken by friends, and you have a built-in defense mechanism, rightfully so, that keeps you at arm's length because you don't want to feel that again, right? You don't want to go through that pain. You have a hard time trusting because someone walked out on you, because someone forsook you, because someone abandoned you. And so you have a difficulty trusting, embracing, loving, being loved. And the good news of the gospel reminds us that Jesus entered fully into our abandonment so that we will never be alone. I will never minimize the pain that comes with abandonment. There are deep layers that people have to work through, and those things that take time and work and gospel grace, goodness. But I want you to hear from a simple gospel perspective that Jesus will not walk on you. He will not abandon you. He will not forsake you. He is faithful and true. And he faced our abandonment so that we will never be alone. What about this gospel reminder from this text? I love this idea. Jesus, who is the innocent sufferer, the one who suffered on our behalf innocently, he was innocent of what he did. Jesus, the innocent sufferer, redeems, rescues suffering. You see, the turn from lament to praise in this psalm mirrors the cross and resurrection of Jesus. As we've mentioned, Jesus is the fulfillment of Psalm 22. Jesus went through the things that David describes here. He did not escape the suffering. He did not bypass the suffering. He faced and went through the suffering. Jesus is the innocent sufferer who entered our pain and suffering for a bigger purpose, for a redemptive purpose. That means that our suffering, our desert seasons are not meaningless. They have purpose behind them. We sing it here. He turns sorrow into praise. He turns mourning into dancing, ashes to beauty. He turns graves into gardens. Your pain has purpose. You may not be able to see it, understand it, desire it, but there is purpose in the desert seasons of life, even when we do not feel it, even when we do not see it, even when we do not want it. We went through a Romans 8 series a while back, a couple years ago now. We drilled down on that verse that often is quoted and often misquoted. Romans 8:28. We know that all things work together for good. That word "know" is a big word, isn't it? We know that all things work together for good. Sometimes we don't feel it, we don't see it, we don't understand it. But Paul in Romans 8, talking about this very idea of God's redemptive work in our lives as individual and global, he says, God is in control. God is redeemed. God is justified. God is sanctified and glorified. And because of who God is, we can know, based on who God is, we can know that he is working all things for our good and for his purposes. Jesus redeems our suffering. And then let me just mention this last one from this text, particularly flowing out of verse 27. That our gospel mission flows from the cross. Flows from the cross. 27 again, all the ends of the earth shall remember and turn to the Lord, and all the families of the nation shall worship before you. You see, the trajectory of this psalm is from personal pain to global praise. And that reminds us that the cross was not the end of the story. The cross was not the final say. That on the third day, Jesus came back to life. And the resurrection initiated a global movement that will one day culminate in the universal praise of our King. You see, through the cross and through the resurrection, people from every tribe, every tongue, every nation are redeemed and brought into the family of God. And the gospel invites us not just to find healing and redemption in the cross, but to be ambassadors, to be missionaries, to declare what he has done to future generations so that they will know his name and that they will worship him. We read it in verse 31 and highlighted it. They shall come and proclaim his righteousness to a people yet unborn. Future generations of people. People who have yet to hear. People who have not even been born when David wrote Psalm 22. Who have not even been born as we stand here in 2025. To people who are unborn, we are declaring a message. What is that message? That he has done it. The way that Jesus said it on the cross is, it is finished. That we declare a gospel message that it is finished. This is the global cry of Jesus from the cross, that what he has done is enough for all people of every generation. That salvation is not something we achieve. It is something that has been provided for us through Jesus on the cross, through the resurrection. It is finished. And that is the message that we proclaim to every generation, every tribe, every tongue. Psalm 22 does not end in despair. It ends in global worship. So let me encourage you this morning. Are you in a wilderness season? Are you in a desert time? Cry out to God. Be honest with him. Remember his faithfulness. Lean into him and wait for hope. Trust that even when you feel forsaken, that God is not removed, that he is near. Some of you have come through a desert season. You're on the other side of it. Here's what I would encourage you. Tell your desert story. You know why? Because there's others that are in the desert that need to hear it. And they need to hear that God is near. And they need to hear that God is close. And they need to hear that you have felt and experienced the same thing that they're going through. And that you've made it through by God's grace and strength. Tell your desert story. And then I would also encourage that as we come to the other side of our desert seasons, that we bring praise to him, right? That we declare his name among the people. That our individual pain and forsakenness and abandonment gives way to global praise. That there's a bigger story being written than just our individual pain. That God is at work and that he can be trusted. I mentioned this story at Mom's little celebration of life that we did here 2 weeks ago today, actually. It was a story that in the late 1800s, there was a successful Christian lawyer and businessman by the name of Horatio Spafford, and he faced unthinkable tragedy. First, he lost much of his fortune in the Great Chicago Fire in the 1800s. And not long after that, he sent his wife and 4 daughters ahead of him on a ship to Europe while he stayed behind to handle business affairs. The ship that they were on collided with another ship in the ocean and sank. And his 4 daughters drowned. Only his wife survived. And when she reached England, she sent a telegram back that had only 2 words: saved alone. Saved alone. Spafford was heartbroken, devastated, and he boarded a ship to sail to reunite with his wife. And as his ship passed over the spot where his daughters had died in that horrific accident, it was there in the midst of his grief and his heartbreak that he sat and he began to write the words, to pen the words to an old hymn that many of you grew up hearing and singing. It is well with my soul. It is well. Amidst the tragedy, amidst the devastation, amidst the heartache and the heartbreak, it is well with my soul. His faith did not deny the pain, but it declared peace in the presence of God, even in the desert. Our band's going to come and lead us in a rendition of this song that's been rewritten and modernized. But as we sing it, I want us to be reminded no matter what we're going through in this desert of season of life, that God is faithful and He is near and He can be trusted, and it is well in the depth of our soul amid the turmoil. Let's bow our heads for prayer.